Welcome to the Brady Bunch of Autism, your source for family, parenting, and all things autism and special needs. Created by our family for your family. Live from the Ed Asner Family Center. And now your hosts, Nava and Matt Asner.
Welcome to the Brady Bunch of Autism. I'm Matt Asner.
And I'm Nava Asner. And it's Tuesday.
And we're here and we're ready.
And we're on fire today. We're very excited because we have some really important guests who are going to talk to us about how we can support our families who are going through COVID, but in a different way. There's a lot of extra challenges that we go through as special needs families.
And, we went through it actually because we had COVID in our household and everyone got it. And there were varying degrees of illness. And luckily, we're all through it. There's some lingering effects, but we're all through it. But we're gonna talk to a mom who is going through it right now.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see what's going on with her. We're gonna check in with her and see what's going on. We are also gonna have an old friend from previous seasons. Dr. Gary's gonna join us, and he's going to talk about how this looks, and maybe we can start smiling again, and
well,
California
can always smile. We can smile.
Well, of course.
What is the
what?
Smile though your heart is breaking?
Yes. Oh yeah. Smile.
Oh yeah.
Charlie Chaplin. But it's I think California's lifting the mask mandate. Other states are. Whether that's good news or bad news, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I have my own feelings about it. But what do you guys think?
I have my own feelings, which are completely different from yours.
What are your feelings?
It's very controversial, but I think that our community, the kids are, we have two sides, and I want to support both sides equally, but because we have our super sensitive kids who are really going to be affected if we take off our masks. But we have so many of our community and so many of our kids who cannot have the education they deserve because they can't handle having a mask. It's just the stimulation, the feel, the texture. It's too hard for them. And
you're right. We're definitely divergent, our viewpoints.
Yes.
Because I feel that if there's one group of people that you haven't heard from that are anti-mask, it's kids. I mean, kids are rolling with the punches. They're saying they're putting on their masks. They've gotten used to it. They understand that it's a part of their life now. And I don't think that kids are upset about masks. I think it's become a way of life, and they're accepting of it.
And I think there's a lot of parents out there who would say that their kids who need more support or have more issues would say that Matt Asner doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Because they can't. They're not able to get the education they need because they can't keep the mask on.
I don't agree with you. What do you guys think out there? Do you guys think kids are going to suffer because they have to wear masks? I don't think so. I think they've been rolling with the punches. They've been dealing with it really well. I know at the very beginning of this, Nava, you thought Eddie would revolt and have a very hard time with this.
I was looking into homeschooling.
Yeah.
And he wasn't keeping his mask on, and it was incredible how flexible he became. And Will from day one was mask hero. He kept his mask on, and we'd have to say to him, Will, take your mask off.
He goes to bed with his mask on.
But Eddie was the opposite, and he was flexible. But again, I know many, many stories where kids were not able to keep their masks on. They were not able to attend school and homeschool for our kids who need more support or serious support. It's impossible for the parents.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting to see maybe Dr. Gary's take on this,
and Amber
when we bring them in.
Who's going through it. She's a special needs parent, autism mom. She has her hands full. She has twins. And I've known Amber forever. I think Amber, let's bring Amber on. She can answer that better than I can.
Amber, how are you?
Oh, hi guys. Great. How are you?
When did I meet you, Amber? I want to say it was at the first Surfers Healing.
It was a surfer's healing long ago,
Well,
definitely.
let's think of how many kids I had. Was Wolfie was little. I remember you and Danielle were the first people who said you thought Wolfie was also autistic. So Wolfie was probably like 2, and he's almost 19. So I've known Amber for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yep. And X was a tiny little nugget under the blanket all day. And I kept saying, he's gonna overheat. And you're like, no, he likes being under the blanket.
Huh.
He had to take a nap when we get to surfer's healing. He would have to take a nap to prepare himself to be ready for them.
So now we're gonna get into what's going on with you right now, but the first thing I want to do is ask you, how does X deal with masks?
He actually does surprisingly pretty well with them, but he also goes out in short amount of time, so he doesn't have to do, like, he's not in school all day long like some kids are. So when he's going out for a few hours at a time, and he can come home and take it off. But he does pretty well with it for the most part for that.
But I see, my point of view is, it's, the kids do better than the adults do with it, because the adults have had longer to live without it, and it becomes more of a change for us than the kids.
I think it depends on your if you have sensory problems and what those sensory issues are.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you.
Okay, all right. See, I have sensory issues, and I don't like masks. So, but I certainly wear mine when I go out. So, but Amber, you're going through something right now, that we went through a couple of weeks ago. Your whole family has COVID. You have COVID.
We're all on the recovering end of COVID now, finally.
So how are you? How are you doing?
I'm feeling better for the most part. I still kind of have some headaches and just kind of worn out still.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of, I think, the nature of the beast too, when you're taking care of everybody as well as your beast.
Sure. That's
so.
For sure.
And we're all of you basically the same. Where's the diagnosis the same? Where the what do you call it? The
severity, like
severity.
We all get the same.
I think Tyler and I probably had it the worst. In the first day, like the first 24 hours, it's like I felt like my bones were like made of glass, and I just like hurt. Everything hurt. And I just wanted to sleep in the fever. And then it just was really in waves. It kind of tricks you. You're like, oh, wait, I think I'm a little better today. And then by the end of the day, you're like, no, okay, I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm not good anymore. So, and actually, I thought Xavier was he was doing really well for a while there. And then he doesn't do as well as picking up on cues of that his body is getting sick necessarily. So he gets kind of emotional. So we had noticing some behaviors, and we've kind of noticed from things in the past that, okay, maybe you're not feeling well, and we try to address it. And it was kind of almost like he was like, oh, that's why I'm like feeling so stressed out and emotional. Yeah. I think it was a really weird anxiety that it gives you. It's just like this, like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was almost like I'd be asleep, and I just kind of that feeling when you wake up. So I think that for Xavier not being able to understand it or express it, I think it was really difficult for him until we could kind of talk through, okay, maybe this is feeling this way because your head is hurting. And he's like, oh yeah, my head is hurting. Okay. Cause it's his recognition of pain and not feeling well is not exactly, it kind of takes him like a little bit longer to kind of make that connection or to let us know that he's even not doing so well. And the 5-year-olds, they were pretty much, I mean, they, kind of grumpy and didn't feel well, but they were still wild.
It didn't stop their energy. Well, let's bring Dr. Gary in, because I have a question for Dr. Gary. Hello there, Siri.
Hey.
Hello, Gary.
Oh my gosh, you have a day off for once in your life. It's a miracle.
Yeah, off today. Yeah, it's good.
So
it's good.
Amber said something. We're talking about the challenge. We're talking today about the challenges of being a special needs family and having this weird, virus that hits every single person differently. But what Amber talked about for our family was like the hardest thing, because there's an element of anxiety that this causes, and it is unlike anything we've ever felt. And you can go from totally fine to feeling like, both Matt and I, we felt like we were having cardiac arrest. We felt like we were having panic that we've never had before. And the kids had mentioned something like that too. And I don't hear much talk about Omicron. And I mean, I know there are a lot of different symptoms with some of the different strains, but when you're dealing with a low verbal person or a nonverbal person or just an autistic person or a special needs person who can't verbalize, and they're having these, these levels of anxiety go up have you heard anything about that? Because that's what we're hearing a lot. I mean, it's like,
Well, I think the symptoms have really changed
yeah,
when you're looking at, from Delta, which was taking more lung out, and now Omicron is more throat, sinus, looking more cold. I think people are more anxious about it because they're looking at, okay, is this going to stay this way, or is this going to get worse? Am I going to see something that hits me even harder a week from now? Because we're seeing a lot where it's taken time and the symptoms have gotten worse over the weeks instead of better.
Yeah.
And so I think the anxiety is up more on Omicron than it is on Delta. I think Delta took out the big population, hospitalized a lot of people, but Omicron is more anxiety ridden.
Well, I've got a question for you, and Amber, we want to continue talking about what's going on at your house, but I have a question for you. So the statistic that's come out over the last couple of days, that the deaths have been up in January over year, up in January from
Correct.
coronavirus, and I just am having trouble reconciling that statistic. Can you explain that for me? Because I don't understand it really.
It's hard to say, because I think, like, I'm treating my patients now, we're seeing a lot that are having secondary infections. So you're getting run down from all the things that have happened in the past. Secondary infections. So I'm seeing a lot more pneumonia. I'm seeing a lot more bronchitis. I'm seeing a lot more cellulitis, where somebody's getting an infection, say, in their leg, and it takes off and ends up in the bloodstream. So they're getting bacteremic.
Oh, wow.
You're seeing a bunch more long-term things. And as you and I have talked, long-term COVID, it's becoming more prevalent that it's weakening the immune system and people are getting sicker from other things. So these statistics are actually skewed right now a little bit as well, because a lot of places are out of test. A lot of people are doing home tests and not reporting. So, the numbers are still there. But I think, as you guys were talking about the masks, just jump into that. If you look back at when all this started and everybody masked and everybody stayed 6 feet apart and you quarantined everybody all the time, yet the numbers were still worse than last year when we did all those things right. So I think it's getting through. I still think we're going to see numbers. I think people are getting tired of it, though, and that's the anxiety portion. So,
well, I got to admit, when we got it, the first bad day for me was it was really scary, actually. I had some coughing fits that were completely unlike anything I'd ever had before, and when that happened, it was just it was really frightening, and I think that's for me, that's where the anxiety came in. That was anxiety inducing.
But it's like Gary said, you don't know how much worse it's going to get.
Yeah.
And I think that the thing that's so scary about this is each person is affected differently. So, we had a household of 6 people with us at the time, and each person had a different version of this sickness. And that's what's so scary, because you don't know what's happening. So part of it is you take so many tests. I mean, we work with vulnerable people. We're testing weekly, and you're so used to seeing that negative test that as soon as it actually says positive, for me, seeing that positive test, Amber smiling, she agrees. It's like, oh, I'm actually positive. And so then I was
like, okay, we're good. We're just going to take it. Negative. Oh, nope.
That's the thing. And now people are kind of getting desensitized to that, because everyone's positive, but they're not realizing really that there are so many of us who are with vulnerable people. Our receptionist's brother is extremely medically fragile. So it's really scary. I mean, Matt and I were talking before, Gary, about the mask mandate that's being revoked.
Right.
Not
Well,
not revoked for schools yet.
Right. And that, for all the vaccinated people here, Washington's kind of doing the same thing for indoor things. If you've been vaccinated, they're looking to drop that. Is it going to work? I don't know. We're going to
Yeah.
see. I mean, this is one of those things where every week it's something different. We've changed so
Yeah.
many times here in Washington. CDC guidelines for quarantining has gone from 5 days to 10 days to 14 days, back to 5 days. If you're vaccinated and a healthcare worker and you have COVID positive, you can still come to work. So
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
it's
And in
it's
Amber's
out of
town,
control.
Amber, you were saying in Indiana they're not masked in schools.
No, not where we live. They don't wear masks. The kids don't. They are maybe recommended, but I don't think most of the kids don't even wear masks at our school.
Well, and I think California is going to follow suit at some point in the near future. You won't see the masks in schools, but we'll see what happens when it happens. We have someone writing in from Williamsburg, Virginia, and it's Williamsburg. It's Tony, I believe. Tony, is that correct? My child with autism is 32. No programs for her in 2 years. We've been together every day for that period, and remote learning is not an option for our grown kids. I feel this lack of day programming has been a huge disruption to this community. My daughter Hannah, like you, Gary, my daughter Hannah is 32. I hike, do therapeutic writing, and art therapy with her just to keep her going through the pandemic. Well, Tony, you're not alone.
I'd like to ask Tony, is the reason why she's not in a program because she won't wear a mask, or because there are no programs for Hannah?
Probably because there's been shutdowns and maybe
a lack of programs.
Maybe maybe her daughter is medically fragile. So she does.
And sometimes even when you do have programs and you have workers that get sick, then everyone's sick and they're in quarantine.
Exactly.
And then they get better, and then you get sick, and then it's weeks before they get their services.
Well, I think that probably for most people is the most frustrating thing about this entire thing. I mean, it's a tragic thing. The whole thing is tragic. The deaths are tragic. The fact that businesses have had such a hard time, that's tragic. And the fact that people who like Tony and her child are having such a hard time, and other people around there are having such a hard time because all the programming that normally exists in this world has changed. It's different. It's we have programs at our center, and we've had to close. We're opening in March.
The first ever time that we've had to cancel Camp Ed due to the surge.
Yeah. Carolyn Clausen, hello, Carolyn, writes, this pandemic. Caroline, I'm sorry. This pandemic has been hard for me because of not being able to attend my day program, Aim Higher, in person. I'm able to attend my TRS group both in person and on Zoom. Well, that's good. At least you can do that.
And she does movie chat every week.
And she does movie chat. But it's difficult. And I mean, Gary, do you see this? And I know this is the $1 million question. Do you see this changing in the near future? Do you see this disappearing and us going back to a normal way of life in the foreseeable future?
Well, I do. I see it coming to an end as far as what people are willing to deal with. So I think you're going to go back to people are not going to wear masks. People are going to go about their life, but it's not going to go away. We're seeing, I mean, if you've read recently the new variants that are out there, there's at least 3 that are on the horizon. That's going to keep happening. So is it going to be another big one like Delta where it overrides everything and we have a lot more deaths? It's to be seen. It just depends on how this thing switches up. My big concern lately is, I'm still having 5 to 10 a day positive, but it's those secondary infections.
Gary, let's explain what you mean by that, because a lot of people, don't know what you do. You work at a clinic.
Correct. In urgent care. And so we test, and we're still sending out the PCR, which is a 2 to 3 day turnaround time. And we're getting at least 5 to 10 of those back every day from previous test, still positive. the rapids at home, people are not either doing right, or, you know, now they're saying, let's swab the throat because Omicron is found so much more in the throat. So we've switched over to doing some of that and doing a comparison, but it's not going to go away. And I think, again, the scary part for me is watching these people with the secondary infection.
Yeah.
That's a lot more of the hospitalizations. That's a lot more what's now causing people anxiety. So all my patients that I'm talking to, I'm saying, we got to keep you on an antibiotic. We've got to watch for that secondary infection so you don't get pneumonia or, you know, breathing problems. Are you doing long-term lung damage, end organ damage to your liver, to your kidneys? We're seeing a lot of numbers start to spike in that as well.
Well, and that was a fear that of course I had, because I have emphysema, and
also you don't know at what point is it time to go and get really checked out, because everyone feels like, well, I'm just sick, or I'm coughing, or it's going to get better. But I think, like Gary said, if you have if your immune system has been affected, if you're getting worse and not better,
go to the doctor.
This is not the time to, you know, take a chance and just power through.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if you're going to get into these secondary issues. And so, Amber,
well, we're going to start checking people too. I've got a group of patients that we're going to follow that actually, when we started this, it wasn't so much just about the testing as it was the chest x-ray look.
Yes.
And so you were seeing some changes on chest x-ray where we could call it and say, this looks like COVID when it all very first started. We're going to run some serial x-rays on those at 3 and 6 months and see, is this long-term damage, and just kind of run our own little side test for this.
Interesting.
And that's what we're going to do with you.
I mean, and are you certain that all the cases that you're seeing are Omicron, or do you think?
Yeah, well, I think they're starting to test more for that, but they're just showing up COVID positive. So, you know, a couple of the labs are trying to really facilitate testing that out specifically for Omicron, and that's the UW, but not down here. It's still sent out to our Pendleton lab, and they're just running it for COVID period. So.
But aren't they at this point just saying, you know, based on your symptoms, this sounds more like this strain, or based on your symptoms, this sounds more. Yeah.
They're still saying the sickest are the Delta, and then the Omicron is still more flu-ish. So.
And do you think? I think what's interesting now is you're not the first person I've heard say that you know, people are doing home tests and not reporting. I think that's happening a lot.
Well, and then we ran out too.
Yeah, and so I've heard now that now they're starting to test wastewater. And do you think that's a valid way of getting a clear picture?
I don't. I mean, you still got to look at each individual person. You got to make sure, is it going to show if it's in the community? Certainly. I mean, you're still, you know, dumping that. But as far as, you know, health concerns, I think we need to still be able to test. To the extreme that we're running out has been the problem. I mean, every single person in the city wants to be tested. I mean, and constantly. And some of the employers here are saying you can't come to work until you have a negative test, which is ridiculous, because you're saying 60, 90 days. I had people that were testing week after week after week and showed positive. But long time ago when we had talked, I talked about viral load. That's still going to be the big thing. How much viral load are you carrying? If it's low, you're not really shedding that. If it's high, you've got the fever, you've got the cough, you're shedding it. So those are the ones you still have to protect from. And I think that's where we're seeing the numbers kind of be skewed.
And that was when you and I were texting Gary saying, we're still testing positive.
Well, and it's amazing because you do still see it. You know, we're watching the Olympics, and there's so many people involved in the Olympics that are coming down with COVID now. They're testing out of the Olympics. One of them is Zhu, the skater. Nathan. No, not Nathan. The Olympic skater.
The other one, not Chen, the other one.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. How many are we doing where, you know, we send it out, it comes back positive, and then they need to go back to work, so they're taking a home test, doing it wrong, and saying, "Oh, I'm negative." We get a bunch of those.
Well, we're not going to answer everything here for sure, but Amber,
Can you Amber, for our community, can you just give some of our parents some tips that you might have had in closing, just like, you know, what they can do when they're dealing with something?
I think the biggest thing for me was trying to recognize that his behaviors might be him not feeling well, even though he didn't quite have a fever yet or anything, and trying to explain to him that what he was feeling, I think might have helped. I mean, it seemed to it helped him calm down, like, okay, because I do think he was having that anxiety, that feeling of, and part of it is when, you know, you sit there and run out of breath when you're just sitting still. That does give you anxiety, because that's a scary feeling when you're just you know, talking. And even still now, you know, I'm start doing stuff and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm not, take a break for a minute, you know. I think another big thing is just, it's really hard when you're a caretaker and you're sick at the same time. Yeah. And you're trying to, my son is so empathetic. I'm trying not to, you know, I'm trying to keep it together for him. And it's like, you don't feel good either, but it's just, you have to find that balance, and you have to be able to take care of yourself though too. And ask for help if you can, I think.
You have to be a good actress so they don't see you stumbling.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Pretty much. Well, we love you, and we're you know, you got to just take it minute by minute sometimes and not day by day. And coming from us, you know, we were sick for 6 weeks, you know, just.
And I say reach out and vent to your friends like I do to you guys.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Know, this is a tough day. It's okay to say.
Leave the dishes, you know, don't worry about things. Things can wait for tomorrow, and just take care of yourself.
Lots of good movies out there.
Yes.
Watch them.
And Dr. Gary, we will see you soon. And
all right.
We're like 2 ships passing in the night. You just came down, but we missed you.
Always. We're going to be back. We got to go to San Francisco next. So.
Oh, you'll see Precious Doodoo.
We will see him again.
Okay.
I think you have to explain that.
Precious Doodoo is Uncle David. That's very good friends with
a lot of people out there don't know what that means.
Yes.
So,
well, if you're Israeli, you might.
Well, yeah,
that's a
majority
a
of
nickname
people
for David.
Majority of people don't know what that means.
Okay. Well, now they do.
That's her nickname for her brother.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming by and talking with us. And Amber, continued healing.
Yes.
For you and your family.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. And Gary, keep the healing going.
We're going to try. Take care, guys.
All right. Thank you both very much.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
That was very interesting what Amber said.
We're still on, yeah.
Because Eddie, who we thought, oh, he's coming down with something. I know immediately when Eddie's starting to get sick, because he starts to get emotional.
Yeah.
He turns into a 2-year-old again. And Amber said that
it's like
about
me, actually,
X.
Right?
That's exactly like you. But you're always acting like a
well, when I get sick, I get kind of like
you get really
I get very emotional and anxiety.
Yes. That's why God made women to be the ones to
really
have children, because men could never. Right. Okay, I'm getting into something that I'm maybe we shouldn't go there. Okay.
Is that it?
Yes.
Are we done?
It. I'm done.
We're done with the show?
We're done.
Well, okay.
Tuesday.
Well, we'll be back on Thursday. Thank you, everyone, and keep the seatbelts fastened. We'll see you on Thursday.
Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good day.